meeting to order. Let's start off with the flag salute. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so let's do a little roll call here. Ann?
I'm here.
Okay. Richard's here.
Yep.
David's not here. Virgil?
Here.
Present. Jim Ricker? Present. Bergman? Present. Okay, yes, I'm sorry I missed it last time. No, not enough. Although, there's been issues. Okay, so I guess we'll go to item 3, elections of Parks Commission Chair, Vice Chair, and Secretary.
Oh, my.
Okay, so we need to, 2-year hitches, from what I remember? Okay. So let's start.
It's like a
off with-
one-year position, isn't it? But you can be elected twice to the same position?
Is that the protocol?
Yeah, yes, that is.
Okay.
And have you been here 2 years or 1 year?
Yeah, well, I filled in, right, didn't I? And then completed a year, so that qualified as a 2?
Yeah,
we could
all
fudge
three of
that
the
one.
incumbents have been in for 2 years, so you can rotate to a different position, but your terms in the existing
As
position
chair,
termed out.
okay. So, any discussion? Who would like to suggest someone for the chair for the forthcoming year?
Well, I'd nominate Virgil since he's the vice chair right now, and
I
that's
think
kind
that's a
of
good
been the
idea.
protocol. And I'm not sure who the secretary was. Was that Ann? Mm-hmm. And then I would nominate Ann as vice chair, and
And then since Richard's the only one here? As secretary,
yeah, and then Richard is secretary. That will work
would that be fine?
if he's willing to do it.
Yes,
It's a tough job.
yes, it sounds like it. Yeah, that's what I was asking. What are the duties? It's almost all done for
Looked to
you.
your left and said, what?
Yeah,
No,
it's a little more of a title.
no issue. Okay, do we have any discussion? No? Okay, so can I get a motion for those positions?
I make a motion,
Okay, so we have a motion for those 3
that's
positions.
3 positions.
Okay,
I second that.
and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, hearing none. We will have those new positions starting next meeting.
I'd like to mention that with regards to our standing rules or bylaws, the secretary really is just a placeholder because the meeting has to, either the vice chair or the chair has to be present for the meeting to be an official meeting. So the secretary can't really
Yeah.
preside
that
over
role,
the
yeah.
meeting, so. But just in case you guys haven't never read those things.
Gotcha, so.
The new guy probably has read them more
Bylaws
recently.
call
I
for
haven't,
at least one of
No,
those.
but thank you for that information.
You're welcome. I hope I'm right.
Doesn't fly. Okay. So, Tracy, you've got that? Okay, very good. Can I get a motion for approval of tonight's agenda?
I'll make a motion to
Okay.
approve tonight's
Carver makes a
agenda.
motion.
I'll
to approve the agenda, Virgil seconds the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, approval of agenda. Approval of meeting minutes, November 16th, 2023.
I make a motion to approve those meeting minutes on November 16th,
Okay, Richard
2020.
makes a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Virgil seconds it. All
Oh,
in
Jim
favor?
Ricker.
Jim Rickard.
I mean, Jim did.
I want my
The other
name on
bird.
that man.
Okay.
Okay. Jim offered a second, and, so, let's vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstains? Aye.
Aye.
Bergman, Carpenter abstain. Approval of last meeting's minutes. Public comment during this item. The public may address the commission on items not on this agenda. This public comment period is limited to 15 minutes, so please limit comments to 3 minutes per person. All comments can't be heard in the 15-minute time limit. Public comment period will be taken up at the end of the regular meeting. The commission is not permitted to take any action on items under this item. Okay, do we have any public comment at this time?
We do. Since I was sitting with the public, I thought I'd make a public comment.
States his name.
Andy Fisher.
Please identify yourself.
Andy Fisher, resident of El Dorado County.
Resident of El Dorado. You're not allowed to speak, sorry.
I did want to let you know on the subject of El Dorado County, just as a public comment, they are launching their Park and Trail Master Plan. They watched our process over several years and were pleased with the outcome of it and have asked me to be on their technical advisory committee. So I'll keep your commission appraised as they move forward, but we're really excited to see our neighboring county trying to coordinate with us and see their master plan tie into ours.
Great,
Right on. Excellent.
that's pretty good. Okay. Do we have any other public comment? Nobody on the television? Okay, hearing none, I close public comment. Report from the administrator. Uh-oh.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm doing the Administrator's Report tonight, so this is a little different. I have several things I wanted to bring to your attention tonight. Recently, we had CAL FIRE out doing some cutting and piling in the early fall. They have come back with their CAL FIRE CC crews at Hidden Falls and done some burning of our slash piles. So they've done a lot of great fuels work for us in the last month or so, once they got their burn permits and everything. So that's ongoing. I think we'll be wrapping that up pretty soon. We recently resurfaced the parking lot at Trailer Ranch. The park staff did that. It was in pretty rough shape. They went out, did some grading, removed some of the old material and brought in new material, rolled it all out. And the community's, I think, really excited about that new parking lot. We had recently
you guys
had
did
another
that.
Eagle Scout project. I apologize.
You did that in-house?
Yeah, we did that
Yes,
in-house.
well,
We had an Eagle Scout project at Hidden Falls, another one, work together with the Eagle Scouts. Our staff did some of the work, they did some of the work, but they put in 2 nice picnic tables there at the trailhead at Hidden Falls Regional Park. The Applegate Park, following a recommendation from your commission in September to approve $150,000 in Area 14 park fees. Applegate Park Playground Project, staff briefed the Weimar Applegate Colfax MAC on November 15th, and the MAC was unanimous supportive of the request. We plan to take this item to the Board of Supervisors within the next couple months as soon as a construction contract is finalized. This is just some concept Miracle had provided for us of how, we could utilize that space and get as much benefit as we could out of that little L-shaped space. So they came up with some good designs, but it'll go out to bid. So talking about Sheridan Park now, we are preparing to take the request of the board on January 23rd to augment our budget for the Sheridan Park improvement. This project with $536,000 in American Rescue Plan Act funding. This will add to the $47,000 in Sheridan Park area fees and $191,200 in Prop 68 per capita grant funding to fully fund the construction of a baseball field and a new restroom. So I don't know if you're familiar, but back in the day, they did have a restroom facility in the back and a ball field, and over the years, it just kind of fell into disrepair, and that community did not have a large CSA funding to maintain it. So that's another project we're working on. There's a couple more coming up. Annual Development Impact Fee Report for Park and Recreation Facilities was accepted by the board on December 12th, 2023. Copies are available online or as an attachment to the board agenda. Park Dedication Fee Nexus Study Update, Sean Johnson. Commissioner Cap and the rest of the review panel selected Wilden Financial Services to assist with our new Nexus study and fee program update. The contract should be executed within the next month. Twilight Ride, I'll let Lisa do this one.
Good evening. So yeah, we're moving along in the Twilight Ride project. It's pretty much completed for this season. What we've done so far is, so here is Bell Road. Here's the entrance with the turnaround. There's going to be a gate here. This is going to be the ranger station. And then coming down to the parking area. So what's been done so far is it's been fully graded and paved all the way down to here. And that's this picture down on the right is right about here-ish. So it shows you the road that's been put in, and we recently lined, there's a swale that goes all the way down the side here. And we were having some concerns with the drainage coming off the road too quickly and coming down and washing out this area. So we have lined that with rock. We're also going to by tomorrow, they're going to, this area and this area too, they're going to take and, because there's vegetated swale material in there, the soil, but it hasn't seeded yet. So what they're going to do to save it over the winter is they're going to tack down some fabric and then put in some rock chevrons to keep the water from washing the material away. But what they might do a couple of things over the winter. The ranger station should be in by February, so that'll probably go in. And the restroom down here has been ordered. It probably won't come until April, but everything else up to that point. So we have a 30-inch culvert here that's done. There's an 18-inch that's done, and this 48-inch is done. What's left is the parking lot, and this is what the parking lot looks like right now. It's partially graded. This is the equestrian area, and off to the left you can see that's the area for regular automobile parking. And then this is the area where it connects. So come April-ish, after April 15th, they can work on this last culvert, and they'll be working on finishing this up. And hopefully we can open up by somewhere between October and the end of the year. And that's all weather dependent, of course. If it starts raining heavy and they have to wait, or, things, the restroom doesn't come in, it's all construction related. In the meantime, we will be working with the land trust that owns the property here to make the connectivity down to their existing trails, and working with them on signage and getting everything set on that end. So when this is ready to open up, we're good to go.
So is the ranger station and the restroom prefab?
Yes.
Oh, so just coming in on a truck?
Yeah, they'll come on a truck. They're CXT. I don't know if you're familiar with that company, but
No.
but we ordered them to suit our needs, so you can pre-order them with various things and various window shapes and where you want the windows and doors and all that thing. So we have an AC heater system up in the Ranger shack, and then the bathroom will be 2 singles with a chase down the middle.
Okay.
So.
Lisa, where the horses unload, is that asphalt?
No, it's oh nice. It's asphalt. The drive aisles, these lighter gray things, are asphalt, and then where the horses unload, that's just going to be gravel.
Good, thank you. And then how about that, what is happening with the residence that's in the front lot?
The residence that's here, it's going to remain as is. The gentleman wants to continue living there, so for the time being anyway. And so he has a lease to continue living there. And at such time as he decides he doesn't want to live there anymore, then that's a decision for another day, whether
Okay.
what the county will do with it.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Turn it back to Dan.
Actually, I am going to turn it over to Andy for the park dedication fee report and capital replacement plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the commission, Happy New Year. Andy Fisher, Parks Administrator, and I just wanted to highlight some of these accounts. You'll notice it continues to grow at a pretty rapid pace. We're up to an unencumbered fund balance total of $10 million. But that is not all just sitting there. I want to draw attention to a number of these park fee accounts with what we understand are going to be pending requests coming in. North Tahoe accounts number 1 and 2, both of those accounts, you can see over $2 million in those accounts. Some of that money will undoubtedly be needed for the Resort Triangle segments, the Truckee River Trail, the North Tahoe Trail, and then there'll also be pending requests from North Tahoe Public Utility District and Tahoe City Public Utility District. So even though there's quite a bit of money there, their projects exceed what we can fund just out of this account. In area number 3, Colfax, we've been in contact with the folks working on the skate park. Costs have gone up, which is typical, of construction costs. They may be coming back to us asking for an augmentation of the funding, the $75,000 that we appropriated to that skate park a couple of years ago. I don't know the amount yet, but I do expect they'll be coming back in for another request. The Area 5, Meta Vista and Auburn area, Sean and Lisa and I met with General Manager Cale Muscott today. We do traditionally meet about once a year because they draw heavily on Area 5 park fees historically, and we also now have the presence of Hidden Falls within Area 5, and so we try to meet at least once a year to kind of coordinate cash flow. What are their projects, what are ours, and we've been able to really make good progress and keep peace between their board and our board and fund a lot of good projects just by paying attention to cash flow and needs and stuff like that. We do anticipate that Auburn Rec District will be coming in for a request to augment the funding that we gave to them for their Marriott Meadows Park. They did have some revenue they expected from a property sale that fell through, so they're going to need some additional cash, and the cost estimate has gone up once they looked at our pricing from Twilight Ride, some of our recent actual bid data, so they've upped their estimate some. So they'll be coming in probably by March for some additional there. They also will likely be looking for some funding for Meta Vista Park and Community Center. So that's the other one on their radar for this year that could be coming. Loomis Basin, you should see a request from us at the next meeting. We plan to go to the Horseshoe Bar, Penryn Mac this month or next month for Area 7 park fees for a project that we really need to do at Loomis Park on the north side. We have a drainage ditch that comes from the Highway 80 corridor and is beginning to wash out in the road and actually take away parts of the parking lot. So we can correct drainage and add to the needed parking at the same time. So that's the basic project that we'll be coming forward with some of the Loomis Basin funds. We've been pretty generous with some of the other folks that draw on Loomis funds in recent years, particularly Del Oro High School. So I think we've taken care of our neighbors pretty well. Time we need to take care of one of our own parks with some of that money, so we'll be coming forward. Granite Bay, we've been working with Area 10. We've been working with the Eureka Union School District. They will be coming forward with a request probably within the next month or two. I expect we will be at the Granite Bay MAC perhaps before our next March meeting. They'll be requesting a little over $800,000 for renovation of the Cabot field at Cabot Junior High School. There's a lot of playable area there. They could have a lot of multiple sports, including lacrosse, some of the sports that need bigger fields. Seems to be a very good project, and I think along with that, they may be asking for some funding for resurfacing of the tennis courts. We have a very old agreement with the district, an agreement to cooperate on funding for major repairs of their tennis courts. This might be a good opportunity to fulfill that obligation, but also revisit that contract. We try not to have contracts like that go on indefinitely, and so this might be a good opportunity to revisit the contract, but help them out. So that'll be coming forward. Dry Creek, West Placer, we have a lot of money, $2.5 million in that Area 13 account, but we do anticipate as soon as we can get the project management capacity to get it underway, there is another phase of Dry Creek Park that will use up the bulk of that funding. We're also looking at trying to provide some trailhead parking on Cookriolo Road as an alternative to Dry Creek Park. So that's been a need from the community.
that they've expressed. So we think, given the healthy funding we have down there, we've got a really good project to put together. We already have, I believe, 1.8 million in the project account. So we're starting to add up to some pretty good money to finish that park. Bear River Applegate. You just heard, we did visit the WACMAC. They agreed with your recommendation for funding. And that would take most of that $220,000, I think, not all of it. I think it's a $150,000 request to augment $90,000 in the project account to build a playground at Applegate. We just need to get the construction contract in place, put it in front of the board for authorization for that construction contract. So hopefully that'll be underway in the next couple months, and that will drop that $220,000 in Area 14 down to about $70,000. And then Serene Lakes continues to build in the Serene Lakes area up to another $213,000. We do anticipate that will be needed for the Emigrant Trail project at some point. So just to run down, even though it's a big number in the account, we do have our eyes on a number of different projects to put that into. And all of those projects are identified in the capital improvement program of our master plan. That's all I had.
Thank you.
That's the next item too, so I'm not just hanging out waiting for questions. If you want to move on, you can do that.
So what is your take, Andy, at this point on 24 projects in the offing? In other words, replenishing some of this perpetual funding.
You mean private development projects,
Yeah.
replenishing? North Tahoe is waiting on the Palisades project to come forward and start building rooftops, and the Homewood project. That will be the next two largest projects that will fund Area 2. I believe we have about 400 units left in Martis Valley that would fund Area 1, but it's starting to build out. We're going to see Area 1, which has traditionally been our wealthiest park fee account. It's not going to generate the revenue that it has in the
That's a
past.
property in North Star, is that correct?
Right. Mm-hmm. Colfax, Forest Hill, fairly small. Meadow Vista, we've been getting money from the Timberline project right across the street. I believe there's several more units there, and there's some other fairly good-sized projects coming back in that have been on the books but changed hands ever since the recession. 80-unit subdivision off Atwood starting to come back. So hopefully we'll see some building that sustains the Area 5 account because there is such need within that account. City of Rockland and Roseville, those two accounts, really just, they're islands of areas within the city limits that just remained unincorporated. Labode Tract, some areas off of places like that, areas across from Sierra College. So they grow very slow because they're built out neighborhoods, but surprisingly, they do continue to generate some funding. So we do have projects like the Dry Creek Trail that goes through Granite Bay, City of Roseville, West Placer. Could be a very good use of funds like that cross jurisdictions. But yeah, they're slow growing. Granite Bay continues to grow with the Rancho Del Oro project. I believe it's 150 units. Mr. Anderson,
yeah,
you had something like that. So that'll continue to bump up the Area 10 account pretty well. Dutch Flat, very slow. Dry Creek, West Placer should continue to grow rapidly. We have some pretty large subdivisions coming in that'll be paying fees, about 1,200 new units coming into that area, in addition to the big specific plans. So that should continue to grow, and we may even look at an enlargement of Dry Creek Park, seeing if we can expand that even more than what we've programmed for it because of those new subdivisions come in. I think we could fit another couple of fields, things like that. So that should continue to grow. Bear River, Applegate, Ophir, and Serene Lakes to kind of finish it off are pretty slow growing.
Okay, have any questions for Andy? Jokes. Okay, that takes care of the park dedication fees and fund analysis reports. Information items, report on capital replacement plan.
Move that forward. I do want to introduce you to, I think, one of our largest initiatives that we really want to move forward through the CEO's office and the board this year in an initiative that I think you and your capacity as advocates for parks can hopefully carry some water and messaging for us on this. It's been a needed program for a number of years. Board members have asked for it. It showed up in our Park and Trail Master Plan adopted in 2022 that you all recall that you worked on with us. One of the initiatives, recommendations and principles, one of the foremost principles in that plan, maintain the park and trail facilities that we have with a couple of specific recommendations: actively address deferred maintenance needs, meet or exceed current maintenance standards for parks, trails, and open spaces. And the third was to use volunteers, which is not quite so pertinent for tonight, but in there as well. So we are just bringing forward what came out of that adopted Park and Trail Master Plan, which is a capital replacement plan. It's the one area of funding within parks, within our responsibility in county office buildings, around county office buildings like this one, that has been underfunded and really had very little attention given to it until a few years ago. As our inventory has grown, one of the things I think we've kind of come to realize, we tend to be highly recognized for places like Hidden Falls Regional Park. You know, we went through such a publicized approval process for that park, and it is so regionally well known. A lot of people think of us as, oh, you're the Hidden Falls people. In reality, we've come to the realization we need to get the word out there and the understanding amongst decision makers that Hidden Falls, as far as the facilities we maintain, is fairly small. It's a very small facility in terms of the built amenities that we have within our areas of responsibility. And I want to highlight some of those things for you. We are responsible for, we have a footprint in 159 different facility sites. Some of those are multiple parcels. We have recorded, we went out over the last couple years, and Dan and his staff have done a lot of information gathering, and I'll explain the software that's helping us with that in a moment. We've identified 107 different asset types. And I want to just try to give a sense of the scale of what we as an organization do. We have 43 active parks and beaches that total 194 acres. Maintain over 2,000 acres of passive parks like Hidden Falls. We have 19 miles of paved trails, 100 miles of dirt trails, 141 acres of office grounds. So that's the domes, it's this campus, and then we've been moving into West Placer, off of Kirby Hills in Roseville, off of Sunset Boulevard in Rockland. We've been opening more and more office campuses in West Placer to serve the population base there. And that all comes with new inventory for us in the form of landscape beds, things like that outside those office buildings. So 141 acres of county office grounds, that's 6 million square feet of grounds that we're responsible for. 12 acres of roadway landscaping. A lot of that's along Douglas Boulevard, some of it's median, some of it's arterial frontage. That kind of acreage comes with the need sometimes for traffic control. It has its own challenges in maintaining it. But that's what we're responsible for today. That is going to grow rapidly in West Placer. And then just in the last couple of years, we've taken on responsibility for parcels that have nothing to do with parks, 136 county parcels that we've taken on responsibility for defensible space compliance, vegetation management. So, we are not a small organization, and Hidden Falls, in terms of the built amenities, is a very, very small part of that. As you know, our parks and beaches, this is a little outdated, but our parks and beaches, just the ones we invite the public to, this is not even the county office buildings, it's not all the landscaping, these are just the public parks stretched from Roseville to Tahoe. So a little over a year ago, we entered a contract with a company called AssetWorks. They're a software company that the county already uses to manage its automotive fleet and its heavy equipment fleet. And they were able to offer us the kind of cataloging and prioritization we need. And we've been entering data into AssetWorks now for several months. And we're starting to get good data out of it, at least to a point where we can start putting a price tag to our needs. In the next several months, the next phase of that software upload and work on that software will be to start prioritizing and giving us recommendations on a year-over-year basis of what to invest in capital replacement-wise. This is a sample of some of the data that's coming out. You can see how we're making those calculations. We've got the quantities and the units. We know what replacement costs per unit are based on actual data, mostly on actual data. So we're able to calculate what the total replacement value is, and then we just do the calculus based on service life for each of those amenities. Divide that out, and that tells us about what we need on an annual basis for each amenity type and volume that we have to keep them up over time. And I want to highlight what some of those amenities are. So this is a synopsis of that larger spreadsheet in that last slide that was just a snapshot. This is just some of the things on that ground. This is all within the parcels we just talked about. We're responsible for 190 acres of irrigated turf grass with the controllers, with the irrigation, with the heads, with everything that goes with that. 20 baseball, softball diamonds, 23 playgrounds, 25 hard courts, 16 restroom snack bar buildings, 27 picnic pavilions, 45 acres of landscaping. So within that 190 acres of grounds, there is an actual about 45 acres of landscaping. That's Netafim underneath it, that's plants and shrubs. They do have a life, particularly the ones within roadways. They grow up a certain amount and they start blocking the sight distance of cars. You have requirements that can't go on forever. They do have to have major rehabilitation on a rotating basis. One of the most costly things that we have without a program to maintain is 31 acres of asphalt. Trails, and when you combine our paved trails and our parking lots, we have 31 acres of asphalt to maintain. We have 8 miles of chain link and wood fencing. That doesn't include the miles of field fence that go around places like Hidden Falls and through it. So when you add that up, that's a pretty big responsibility. And when we come to that bottom line and add it up what we would need on an annual basis, we're calculating about $3.4 million a year to maintain that. We didn't just start thinking about that this year. And any new special taxes, any new county service areas that we've set up in the last several years, we have calculated in a certain amount of replacement value within those special districts that we can start setting aside. And so with that, we have in today's CSA, CFD, those are assessment district special taxes, CSAs and CFDs, we do have available about $240,000 a year. Most of that from Granite Bay Lighting and Landscape District and our Dry Creek CSA. Those are our 2 big ones. But that's available to us today. We will be working through the budget cycle to be more deliberate about how we set that aside on a year-by-year basis. We did, you'll recall last year, also increase the field rental fees throughout the county, and we do expect that that will generate about an extra $200,000 a year, year over year. And we do recommend that that be set aside for major maintenance and not just absorbed into the operating budget. So. And then also, as I mentioned, like some of the big subdivisions coming into West Placer, things like that, they should outpace our building and our just regular day-to-day maintenance activity. So they should be able to, over the next 5 to 10 years as they come in, they should be able to supplement those existing assessment districts and provide more for our capital replacement. So we have it there in parentheses as potential, but if these subdivisions come in the way we think they will, and they join in and annex into our existing CSAs and CFDs, they should provide more funding. So you add up those costs. This does not account for the specific plans in West Placer that we consider fully funded. They have community facility districts with built-in, fully funded capital replacement programs to them. This is really our existing inventory that we're talking about, not future big inventory in West Placer. That leaves us a nexus of an unfunded capital replacement program of about $2.6 million a year. I presented this to our CEO's office last week. They kind of told us what they say every year about the budget. Don't count on anything. It's the worst budget year we've ever had in the history of the world. Okay. So, this is where we're at. I think we have been very realistic in how we price things. We're not shooting for the moon. This is a pretty conservative and realistic program. I don't know that it can or will be totally funded, but I'm very hopeful and want to do our just yeoman's best to get this program into the consciousness of our decision makers and get a program underway. Even if it can't be fully funded this year, could it be incrementally funded? And I would just encourage you and your capacities as you speak in public, as you speak to your appointing supervisors, to help them understand the scale of what we are trying to maintain. More than half of our parks have been built in the last 20 years, well over half. Over half of the landscaping we take care of has come with inventory that we've purchased or built in the last 20 years. It's starting to age out. You know, there is a reason for this timing. 15 years ago, things were new. There was a much smaller inventory. It really is the time where we need to get serious about a capital replacement program, or people are going to really start seeing the wear and tear on things and the dysfunction. So this is an informational item, but I do want to encourage your commission as much as you have the ability to walk alongside of us with this and help encourage this program to become a reality.
Andy, by virtue of the fact that there's dedicated recreational parks, also have the responsibility of doing the county's properties, landscaping, such as this property right here, which is not really a recreational amenity. It's landscaping pertinent to administrative.
Right.
And that's sort of functional county asset. Where does that money come from that's earmarked for this property's maintenance?
There is a, I don't know if you call it a pot of money, it's derived department by department, I guess is the short answer. There are charge tables that funnel into a program we call A87. That's a designation for a federal accounting system number. So each of the departments that occupy, and that they pay on a percentage basis for what they occupy. So the square footage percentage they occupy of the building determines the amount that each department needs to pay for their share of the outdoor maintenance. For the most part, you know, most departments are general fund funded. So in one sense, it is kind of moving from bucket to bucket, but that's not always true. Public safety, for example, has a designated public safety fund. And so what we do for the sheriff's office comes in part from public safety, things like that. So there are multiple funds, but the short answer is what we do for county office buildings is distributed to the departments occupying those buildings.
What I'm wondering is that general fund, if, are we getting a short end of the stick, this department, for those increased responsibilities? Because I think they did increase, didn't they?
Are you asking, are parks subsidizing county office buildings? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Well, yeah, basically.
I don't believe so.
No.
I believe the calculus is pretty close.
And that software that you referenced will verify that, or as it gets built out.
It will be able to differentiate where those assets live. So funding source by funding source, it will be able to say, this picnic table lives on an A87 county property. This picnic table lives in a park within a CSA. This picnic table lives within a county general funded park. Mm-hmm. So it will be able to help us with the buckets of money paying for this program.
Which I presume makes it, hopefully that software will make it less cumbersome when trying to appeal for that money, right? As opposed to going to a CSA
Right.
fund or something.
Right. And that is part of that's a good point, because part of that discussion with the board and CEO's office is, this is not all parks. It is county office building obligation, and it is eaten up by the departments, which is true. But if we, kind of out of the blue hit the departments with a big price tag next year, without their knowing where they would get that general fund funding to pay for it, it's still part of that discussion we have to have with the CEO and with the board, whether it's county office, whether it's parks, particularly that portion that comes from general fund.
Right. Like Placer County Sheriff Office, maintain those.
We do. Mm-hmm.
Gosh. It's kind of a web of.
It's a very complex accounting system. You have to hopefully admire Dina, who has learned our accounting system, and Kaylin, who is here, learning our accounting system, because to make our budget balance, there are a lot of different funds that we have to carefully bring in a certain amount of revenue to balance us every year.
And what's your sense of all the other departments that are looking to tap as much money as they can, Supervisor?
I think we're boning up to arm wrestle better than they are. That's what we want to do. We got to get in there and let it be known that parks are important.
Yeah.
And we have kind of waited in line for a long time. We have not been heavy askers for big money. And I think it is time that Parks has a genuine need, and we need to bring awareness to that need.
Okay. So that software, when did you guys adopt that? That was like midway through this presentation. What is
The AssetWorks software, do you remember when we got under contract for that, Dan?
Yeah, I want to say it was in the spring of 23, February.
Yeah.
So the power, the convincing, at this point, it's still probably not fully populated with all the data for you to tap like that.
Right.
Because it's only not even a year old, right?
It's getting fairly close. We're pulling raw data out of it. As you saw in that one slide,
Yeah.
It'll show you how many concrete picnic tables, how many concrete tables, how many, and then it's vinyl clippered, all the different types. So it's pretty well populated. We're now adding some of the big assets like asphalt and turf and landscaped areas, some of the ones that Andy was talking about. We just brought those numbers in, and they're not in the software yet, but they're in our big spreadsheet, which is a data load sheet.
Gotcha.
And even though we'd like to be complete, we'd like to have even, the kind of prioritization and organized by funding source and things like that. Right now is the budget season. We begin the county budget for fiscal year 24-25, at the beginning of January. And so now is the time that we have to start having those talks. We can continue to work on AssetWorks and we can refine this, but we've got good scale level figures of what the need is from good data-based software.
Well, so when you push, I'm still a little baffled by it because it's out of my wheelhouse. But you could essentially say, right now, we anticipate we need X amount of more labor in 2 years hence, as this kind of labor, this kind of remediation or maintenance, we got to tool up for that staff-wise, equipment-wise, and then, of course, hours.
Some of it by staff, some of it by contract, depending on the nature of the replacement project,
Right.
right?
Okay.
One thing I didn't mention is that the total asset value that comes out the bottom of that sheet is about $81 million worth of built assets, not the real estate itself, but the built assets.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Does anyone else have any questions for Andy?
We can get these numbers to you. We can get copies of the presentation, so you have that those sort of numbers of the scale of what we're trying to publicize out there, the number of things we maintain. We can get that information to you.
Right.
Okay,
Appreciate your advocacy.
thank you.
Hey, Andy, I had a question, only because I'm kind of curious about museums. Now you're taking care of the landscaping and the lawns and stuff around all of our museums, and I thank you very much for the one in Dutch Flat. Is that covered by a museum? Do they have the funding to pay for the landscape and stuff, or does that go through facilities and that's only the building and the rest is up to you, us, the Parks Department?
I believe we're reimbursed by museums, by facilities.
Just curious,
Yeah,
because
they
there's a
would-
lot
they
of
would pay
land
like
out
any
there.
county, yeah, like any county office building.
Yeah, and then of course you have like the Dutch Flat Cemetery, which is just a hunk of public land out there.
Cemeteries are a whole different animal. We don't seem to have a formal requirement to maintain a lot of them, but we get called to maintain a lot of them. So I think we'll have to grapple with cemeteries over the next few years, what our part in cemeteries is gonna be.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, in our case, it was a public cemetery from day one, and same with Gold Run. I have no idea how other cemeteries get established.
Right.
And how they ended up in the county except by default.
Yeah, public can be a very nebulous term. You could have a piece of property dedicated to the people of Dutch Flat, and, you know, who is that? You know, so.
We were
it's,
unincorporated. We were
right?
incorporated for a couple of years, so no
Yeah.
talent.
So,
Thanks.
Okay.
9B?
Capital Replacement Plan, Andy Fisher. 9A, 9B, report on California AB 1572, potable water, non-functional turf.
Yeah, good evening, Chair and members of the commission. Ted Relp with Senior Project Manager for Parks Department. Wanted to bring your attention to a recent legislation in California legislation, AB 1572, authored by Assemblywoman Laura Friedman down in the 30th District in Southern California. And basically this bill, it was passed in April of 2023, and it prohibits the use of potable water to irrigate non-functional turf on commercial, municipal, institutional, and multifamily residential properties. It's going to be a phase-in, and it starts in 2026, with the first phase being directed towards property of the state. And in 2027, well, basically, what it does, it prohibits the use of potable water to irrigate non-functional turf on commercial, industrial, municipal, institutional, multifamily residential properties. And for us, what that means for us is beginning in January 1st, 2027, for all municipal and institutional properties, except those disadvantaged communities, we have to identify areas of non-functional turf and either have, either change the landscaping of it, or we have to have a reclaimed water system in place, which I think the only place is in West Placer, and that system won't go live for another decade or for quite some time. So this bill requires commercial, requires municipal, and all the other ones I mentioned, property owners with more than 5,000 square feet of irrigated areas to certify with the State Water Board compliance with this bill beginning June 30th, 2029, and for every 3 years after that. This bill also says that the Water Board is kind of our regulators, but the bill allows counties, cities, and municipalities to enforce on what you read here was pretty much the multifamily properties. So that's apartment complexes, duplexes, things like that with more than 5 acres of turf are going to have to buy into this program. So what our plan was we acquired a property a couple of years ago, the Kirby Hill property, which is that the county offices off of Kirby Hill, right across from the Kaiser down there on Riverside and Kirby. And we got a dowry of some money to rehabilitate the turf on that project, and Dan can speak to it more, but basically they got it going, got it update. They got it up to speed, and we still have $289,000 into the account. So our plan is to move that money from that account to a new project account in the proposing that we hire a consulting firm or a consultant to help us kind of plan what we're going to do prior to this bill taking place. So that's what's coming down the board here.
So is that just a piece of property that the county has now that's turf, it's turf, right? It's not functional. that what you're saying?
That's correct. It's up here on the board. This is the Kirby Hills. Has a lot of turf on there. And Dan, what was the plan with that? Weren't you guys, we gonna rehabilitate it with Bermuda and some other things going on? We changed plans.
So what originally happened when the facility was obtained, the county purchased it. They had been leasing it for 15 years before they purchased it. And the aerial there doesn't really do it justice, but it is a lot of irrigated turf. And so my predecessor and I had already started our water conservation plan when this facility was purchased, and we had requested some project funding to reduce the turf. Well, at the same time that the facility was acquired, building maintenance was working on trying to extend some additional parking, because parking at the facility is no way near enough for, you know, the guests that they have and the workers. So we had sat on that project funding for a while, waiting to see, you know, what was going to come of the building maintenance project, if they were going to remove some turf. We thought maybe along the frontage road or back in the back, they would remove some turf and do some extended parking. And that never came to fruition, and so we kind of sat on the funding for a little while. Then they decided to remove some of the islands, some of the medians in the parking lot, so they did end up adding about a dozen or 14 parking spaces. I don't remember exactly how many. So some of the funding for that project was used to mitigate the irrigation that went to those islands, cap some things off, and do some repairs after they did their asphalt work. So that funding is still sitting there in that bucket in that project, and that's kind of what we're requesting our board, that we transfer that funding so that we can do some studies on what exactly, you know, is the non-functional turf. I mean, this building here has some gorgeous turf, and the employees enjoy it. They go out for their walks. So we may have to remove some of the turf. We may try to convert some of it to, you know, put in some picnic tables, make some picnic areas for the employees, make it functional. But there still will be, in the Domes building, you can see there in the bottom picture, has a sea of turf out in front of it that will likely need to be converted to something else.
So we'll have to make a trip to the board to get a budget amendment to move these funds from one project account to the other. And then we'll go with a game plan and update the commission when we have a plan after that.
Pardon me, what was the schedule for compliance on this bill?
The date
Yeah.
is January 1st, 2027, and then we won't be, and June 30th, 2029 is when the State Water Board will come and inspect that. But we have to have a plan in place by January 1st of 2027.
So I need a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a date for when it's got to be built or ripped out?
Prior to the Water Board's inspection of 2030.
2030.
Correct. Yeah, so the State Water Board compliance with this bill will begin on June 30th, 2029. So between 2027, 2030, we have to implement this plan.
And this bill came with no funding.
Correct.
Gotcha.
How do they define non-functional turf?
Non-functional turf is any turf that's not located in areas designated by a property owner or a government agency for recreational use or public assembly. Excludes cemeteries from this definition.
Okay. That's a better definition than I thought I was going to get. Thank you.
Well, it seems to me that public use,
Anything green.
people walking around your nice lawn out here is public use.
Yeah, well, what you can do is you put a picnic table up
Right.
on it, and all of a sudden now it's you know.
And this doesn't apply to to shrubs and gardens and.
No, matter of fact, it specifically says, see if I can find it here, that irrigation exempts the use of potable water to ensure the health of trees and other perennial plantings or to address immediate health and safety needs from the prohibition outlined in number 2. And if you read the author's, actually, I'll read it for you because it's kind of interesting. It seems like the purpose of the bill, according to the author, is very rooted in Southern California and the conservation of Colorado River. So according to the author, there's an urgent need for additional efforts to reduce unnecessary water use in urban areas. Although drought conditions from 2014 to 17 were said to be the most severe drought since statehood, California saw dry conditions return quickly and with severe curtailments of state project water deliveries imposed in 2022. At the same time, water supply conditions deteriorated rapidly in the Colorado River Basin, major source of water for urban Southern California. And the author notes efforts currently underway to address the shortfall of water in the Colorado River Basin as further evidence the need for the California to reduce its overall water use and demand on the Colorado River. So,
Gotcha.
and I know Southern California, I lived there for a while, they have tons of non-functional turf, especially around the freeways, the interior freeways of the greater Los Angeles Basin. You know, it's either ice plant, oleanders, or grass. So makes good sense down there. But yeah, we need to come up with a plan, and we're gonna have to hire a consultant to navigate us through this bill.
And what, should I phrase this? What efforts do you plan to make toward, reclaimed water I mean, I live right near a ditch, the Boardman Canal, which is untreated ditch water.
Yeah,
and I know that
it only pertains to potable water.
right, but I'm just wondering if there are possibilities for parks to tap into the untreated
There's
water
only
supplies.
one system right now, and that's Cal-Am Water down in West Placer that with Dry Creek Community Park and the new parks that came in with the Riola Vineyards projects, that's Glen Willow, Sage View, and the two others that are going to come with the unbuilt subdivision, which is Silver Sage. Cal-Am Water is those Dry Creek Community Park and the Riola Vineyards Park were required to have reclaimed water system infrastructure put in as part of the project. So even though we're using potable water right now, we had to put in the purple lines and the purple valve caps and all the purple identification things for a future use of reclaimed water. But since last talking to them, it's going to be a decade before that's even a reality down there. But that's the only place I know of in Placer County that is gearing up to use reclaimed water.
Yeah, thank you.
Not counting the incorporated cities. I don't know what they're doing. But unincorporated Placer, I don't know of anywhere else that they plan for reclaimed water.
Thanks.
You bet.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. So that's going to be an unfunded mandate with no real idea of how much. There we go. Blowtorch.
Blowtorch.
I mean, by accident. That's what makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, number 10, action items. We don't have any. Commissioner comments. Item 11. Commissioners?
I had a citizen come up to me and ask to use an area west of some tennis courts as a dog park. It's bare earth. It's on school district ground. So I sent him over in that direction, but that might be a dog park we might be looking for. It's not a very big area. It's 120 feet by 110 feet, something like that. So it's not big. But it might, I sent him over to the school superintendent.
Because it's school property.
Yeah, and that's right next to the tennis court that Andy was talking about earlier.
pretty good luck. 15 years ago, by basically volunteer / donation, dog funding for the National Avenue Park that North Tahoe Public Utility District owns. And one of the best fundraisers actually was, get a little sign up there for your dead dog on the cyclone fence that encloses the park, and it only costs you $500. And sold about 100 of those.
Wow.
And so that more than paid for the fence upon which it hangs. Because it's all natural, there's no turf, there's no nothing, there's no irrigation. The only maintenance is to keep the fence going, keep the gates operational, and clean up the buckets of dog stuff.
Yes.
You know, that the district actually does on their dime. So that worked out pretty well without having to find a dedicated money source, mostly because of the PUD. But anyway, I don't know if the school would feel that way.
I don't know either, but I'll let them arm wrestle it.
Yeah. Okay. Additional comments, commissioners? No? Okay, I do have one comment, that with the completion of the Martis Valley Trail, Schaefer's Mill parking lot extension, and the lack of snow this year, the place has been packed with visitors over the past 3 weeks. And that, the safety that, if you recall, it was just a bootleg kind of turnout thing in the road where people would park on Highway 267, which has a speed limit of 55 miles an hour. And people, and the parking lot was about as big as half the size of this room. And dogs, kids, people pulling over on a major highway like that, especially with a lot of folks that aren't hip to that it is a pullover.
Yeah.
Visitors ripping on the road, and then all of a sudden here comes somebody loading their dog up with their kids and their frisbees flying over the street. That made a world of difference, safety-wise. And it's clean, it's, people dig it. And both tourists and locals are using it instead of the airport road across the street. There's a safe turnout lane in the middle of the road. So it's made a real big difference. So that's a big blue ribbon right there.
Good deal.
So, okay. Do we have any additional commissioner comments? Okay, so hearing none, I motion for adjournment.
Okay, wait, there's one more,
We
number
got one more
12.
thing?
Yep.
Oh, next park meeting, which would be March, correct? Oh, right in front of me. March 21st, that's not the Ides of March, that's March, okay.
Yeah.
So, any issues with that? No? Okay, sounds good. And that's the third Thursday, right?
Yep, third Thursday.
3 times 7 is 21. Okay.
All right, very good.
Okay, so can I get a motion to adjourn this?
I move that we
Do
adjourn
I
this
need
meeting.
one? Okay, meeting adjourned at 6:36. Thank you very much, all.
Thank you.